I grew up in the town of Wolfville, and I used to come after school. My parents worked, and so I came after school with my grandmother down to the farm, which I now live. My grandmother always had a big garden to sustain the family and sell some produce, and she had an apple farm. We've been 7 generations here. Myself and my daughter would be 8. And we've moved around a lot this area, and so we haven't always had it really easy. And so when we got this particular piece of land, we feel it's really privileged. And my grandmother always had a big garden to sustain the family and sell some produce, and she had an apple farm. And we would go to the garden and we wouldn't wash the vegetables, we would just pick them out of the garden and eat them right there. This would be my great uncle Don and my great grandfather Joe. And Joe would have been, a farmer in Gasbro Valley. And this is me and a couple of school kids out after school, probably out in the garden. My grandmother often got us to pick beans or dig potatoes. I grew up with all those cues. She always had a certain time frame in the year where she planted her peas, and how she planted them was dependent upon the moon phase. But she didn't call it biodynamics, it was just what she learned over the years from her ancestors as well. I became very passionate about protection of agricultural land early on in my careers as a farmer, as a commercial farmer. When I was 19 years old, I came back to the farm to live full-time. I did all kinds of things to sustain myself while also trying to run and build up the family's farm. When we started planting vines about 10 years ago, it's on land that my family once lost. They had to sell it to sustain the rest of the farm. So we were able to purchase that land back in the 90s, which is where we're sitting today. Is an old ledger, an old farm ledger. Allegedly, the year that they bought the farm, there was enough apples left on the trees. In about 3 months after they bought the farm, they picked the apples and sold them, and more than half paid for the farm. So that's how they started their farming here on this land. And then it very quickly went downhill from there to the fact that they had to start to sell land to survive. We always said collectively in our family we wanted to leave the land better for the next generation. That was handed down from my grandmother to my father, and now from me to my daughters.
It was really inspiring to see them, make this transition together. They could have retired fairly young and been pretty comfortable, but they decided to embark on this adventure to, bring some diversity to the farm and bring it back to, organic and natural farming. I was really inspired by that. That's why I decided, to join them and to pursue a career in this field. So this is our home farm vineyard in Wolfville, Nova Scotia. We have about 15 acres here. This is our Vidal block, which is a white grape. To the right we have Chardonnay, about 5 acres. It's a pretty spectacular view.
We started to investigate. We had this beautiful piece of land with a view and proximity to water, everything that everybody preached that you should start with. So we were curious and we went to a wine symposium. We knew we wanted to do something here. We knew we were very interested in developing the farm further and doing some projects together. It all just kind of came together magically. Jocelyn started to study for her sommelier certification, and I became extremely interested in growing grapes as a farmer. That was very interesting to me. I was using land that our family had, and then there was this added element that really appealed to me, that grapevines are very long-lived and very permanent, and you put that amount of infrastructure, trellising, and care and heartfelt love into these vineyards, it would be very difficult to have that land ever further develop or anything else. And we had numerous times been approached to have our land developed, being so close to the town of Wolfville. And with such a nice view, so many developers came and offered tons and tons of money, and we turned them down flat every single time. And when I started to think about grapevines and being able to commercialize a product on this piece of land, share this view and share our land and our family story with so many different people, it really appealed to us. So we started to pursue it. We started to dabble back and bring cattle back onto the farm and sheep and pigs back into the woods around the farm. We started to try to make the farm whole again and healthy, increase the health of the farm again, using the offputs of one particular type of animal, and one particular side of the farm is an offput, the manure for instance, and we use that as an input on this particular side of the farm in the vineyard. So we're trying to develop the farm, be more cohesive, be more of a whole small farm model and a family farm. It appealed to us. There's always this anticipation around harvest. You start to make lists and check them, and you start to get amped up, and you're looking at your equipment and you're fixing all the tires on the trailers and thinking about, you know, do I have all my equipment working, and where is everything? You just start to get organized, and 2 or 3 weeks out, you start hiring the extra hands. That's what we've been doing lately, is bringing some extra people on the farm to help us with harvest. Is very normal. We pick up harvesters from all over. People will show up in buses and living in school buses. They'll just come and camp in the vineyard. We meet all kinds of really cool people, from actors to writers to transient folks. It's really a neat time. We meet a lot of really cool, eclectic people, and we try to build this community in the farm, so that we have a great spirit. It's hard work, long days, and once we get really into it up in October, it's pretty grueling. At the end of it, you're pretty spent. You're done for a while. You need a break. It's hard. We'll wait for the sun to warm up and actually dry the dew up, or the wind, for instance, will dry the grapes off. And when we're confident that the grapes are dry, then we can go and start our harvest. So it just depends on the weather, but generally it's as early as we can possibly get at them. And then similarly in the evening, we try to stop when we feel that the grapes are taking on that evening air and that moisture and whatnot. We pick in small hand-held lugs, and we just use hand harvesting here. We don't use mechanized harvesting. Everything is harvested by hand. And this year we'll probably take in about 200 tons. I certainly wanted a family member to succeed me. When Rachel started and made the decision to join us, it changed the game. It was a game changer, and it made everything very real. It was no longer, did we have options? There was no options at that point. We were going one way, and it just amplified. It just made me dig in deeper, and it made me consider deeper the next generations. Then it was real. Then what I wanted, I was getting, and it changed the way I felt in the pit of my stomach. It made everything much more serious and much more. It was a very surreal feeling, and we both felt it, Jocelyn and I. We were, very emotional. I remember when Rachel came and said she wanted to join the farm and do what we're doing and pitch in and do this thing together. We were very honored and overwhelmed, all in the same. It was a real mix of emotions. Ultimately, we wanted them to make their own decision, and so we didn't make it easy on them, although it was always my quiet hope that one of them or more would join at some point. When that happened, I think the girls were old enough at that point to kind of live enough of their life and to see enough out there to be able to make an informed decision. But it was very important to us that they got an education, and it was very important to us that they were able to make this decision, completely without any pressure from us or any expectation from us. And I think that when we realized that it was purely their heartfelt decision, that made it so, so much more heartfelt for us. We feel the proximity of the land to the town of Wolfville makes it privileged. We believe the soil that we're on makes it privileged. We believe the views that we have make it privileged. Just in all kinds of reasons, we felt very proud as a family to be here, to be on this particular piece of land, and it's almost unexplainable. It's almost a pride. Now it's definitely part of our family. Like, we're no longer nomads. We're farming in various different farms around the valley. We're here. This is our land, and this is our namesake, and this is our legacy.